State by state, Donald Trump gathers support from electors on his path to formally win the U.S. presidency. Just moments ago, all 6 of Iowa's electoral votes went to the president-elect. This now brings the businessman's total to 221 electoral votes with no defections. Electors in Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Michigan added their ballots to those cast from at least half a dozen other states today. On November 8th, Trump won 306 electoral votes, surpassing the 270 votes needed to secure the presidency. He also earned 74 more votes than his Democratic opponent Hillary Clinton. Despite a push from liberal groups to convince GOP electors to pull their support from Trump, the effort is not expected to change the vote's outcome. One America's Trey Yingst caught up with former Trump campaign manager Lewandowski and has this report.
I'm here in New York City in front of Trump Tower with former Trump campaign manager Lewandowski. Corey, thanks so much for joining us today.
Great to be here.
So I'd like to start out by talking about the big news today, the Electoral College, 538 electors across the country. How does this process work?
So the way it works is that each state votes in the popular vote, and those people, what they're actually voting for is the people who go today to cast their ballot for their respective presidential candidates. So when Donald Trump went out and won 30-plus states and the 2nd congressional district in Maine, you're actually electing electors who are voting today, December 19th, to actually choose the next president of the United States.
So there's been a number of reports across the country of different electors that have been receiving emails and letters and some even death threats. When you heard about this, what was your initial reaction?
Look, this process has been in place since the 1780s, literally, and we've never had anything like this. This is the left that is so disappointed that they had a failed candidate that they'll try and do anything to stop Donald Trump from being the 45th president of the United States. Today is the day that Donald Trump officially becomes a president-elect of the United States, as those electors are voting across the country right now.
So again, I want to talk a little bit more about this, though, because many people, pundits on different news organizations and a number of people across the country have been talking about what this says and what this would do to our democracy if people were successful in actually getting these electors to flip. Do you think this undermines our democracy, having people that are being threatened with death threats to change their vote when they've been committed by law to support the president-elect?
Look, I think what the country has to do is they have to come together. You could have supported Hillary Clinton, you could have supported Bernie Sanders or one of the other 16 other candidates in the primary. Donald Trump is now the president-elect of these United States. He wants to bring everybody together. That's what's made our country so great. 4 and 8 years ago, maybe Barack Obama wasn't your candidate, but you know what the American people did for the most part? They said democracy works. This is how the American public has decided to vote moving forward. This is what Donald Trump has won. He's gone out and tapped into something that nobody thought was possible except a small group of us, and now he's the president of the United States for everybody. It's time to bring the country together to heal and have one president who represents everyone.
So to these people that are out there, like many are saying, unwilling to accept the results of this election, after today, December 19th, what would you say to those people who still are unwilling to accept the results? Is this the day that people need to move forward and say this is our next president?
Look, I think it's very clear that Donald Trump is the next president of the United States. He's going to be sworn in next month in Washington, D.C., and he's the president for everybody. That's, whether you live in California or you live in Massachusetts or somewhere in between. There's one president. Our country has to come together. We are strongest when we are united. That's so that we can stop our enemies who want to kill Americans, whether that's ISIS or ISIL or whatever you want to call it. It's time that we all come together and have one common cause, which is make the United States as great as possible.
And while I have you here, I want to talk about one other thing. There's been a number of reports on both sides of the aisle, people looking into this concept of Russian hacking and different hacking into our electoral system. What was your initial reaction when you heard this? Do you think this is what some are saying, just another distraction from the results of the election, or do you think that there's any validity to these reports?
Look, I don't have any classified information, but what I do know is that Donald Trump won in states that, Republicans don't traditionally carry: Michigan, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Iowa. That doesn't mean that that's where the Russians were targeting. Donald Trump won in all kinds of places across the country. So this notion that the Russians had an impact on the election, if you go back and look at President Obama's remarks just 30 days ago, he said we have such a decentralized federal government election system that no one could go and hack in because it's so vast. You can't just hack into one location. I agree with the president on that. And if you listen to what Hillary Clinton said the week before the election, she said there is no conspiracy to go and hack the electoral results. I agree with that as well. So I agree with Donald Trump that this just didn't occur. No evidence.
And then finally, do you think there's any danger to the politicians on Capitol Hill who are saying, this election could have been rigged, this election could have been given given to Donald Trump by the Russians. Do you think there's a danger behind that? And again, the question of undermining democracy?
Look, the only people that gave this election to Donald Trump was the American people, who received over 62 million votes across this country. And what that means is people are fed up with a broken system. Now, politicians in Washington are really good at making excuses when things don't go right. They say they're going to give you a tax cut, oh, I couldn't do it. Or we're going to fix the roads and bridges, oh, we couldn't do it. Fundamental and wholesale change is finally coming to Washington for the first time in a generation. That's what Donald Trump brings there, and he's going to change the system completely.
Thank you so much for your time, Corey. Again, outside of Trump Tower here in New York City, former Trump campaign manager Corey Lewandowski. Back to you in the studio.